Mrs. Amina Syed, Dr. Asif Farooqi, Mr. Khalid Mahmood, Dr. Arfa Syed, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me thank very profusely both Amina and Asif for taking this initiative in organizing this first Adab Festival. I am personally been a beneficiary of their organized effort for the last 10 years. And I've been invited to every single literary festival which is held in Karachi. It's a great pleasure that they have continued this particular effort, which is very much a condition which we require to be further enlarged in the body, social, economic, cultural life of this vibrant city. And this is why I want to thank them for taking this particular initiative. And I also want to very much appreciate the efforts of the Governor Sindh for opening up the launch of the Governor House for this particular occasion, and Mr. Khalid Mahmood, who has always been a patron of art and culture, for sponsoring this. I'm personally indebted to Amina. She encouraged me to produce 3 books under Oxford University Press, and before my 4th book, which will be launched soon, she had left that, but I'm very much personally indebted to her for the interest she took in coaching and guiding me in this particular subject of writing. I also want to join Dr. Asif Farooqi in paying my personal tribute to a very great poetess of Pakistan, Fahmida Riaz, whom history, I think, would always remember much better than what we and our generation has actually treated her. So I want to pay my personal tribute to a friend and a great poetess. Pakistan's discourse so far has been too much inward looking. We are so much concerned about the mundane affairs of survival, politics, economics, that we are not trying to place ourselves among the tensions, the dilemmas, and the trade-offs which are taking place at the global and the regional level, and which are going to affect Pakistan in the near future and the generation which is the youth of Pakistan. So I have taken the liberty of describing to you 5 or 6 major dilemmas and tensions which are not affecting us because we are very much an insular society, but we would be either hurt by them or we can benefit from them. The first and the foremost is that the ideological schism of the left and right has completely disappeared. It has become irrelevant, mostly after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Even China is a hybrid model of authoritarianism with capitalist market economy. And this sharp division between left and right is no longer valid. It is now being overtaken by a different type of authoritarian, populist, nationalist, xenophobic, migrant, anti-migrant, anti-gender, irrespective of class distinctions. These are the issues which are dividing the societies. The examples: Trump won in the United States because the coastal states, which are very much integrated with the rest of the world, were quite against Mr. Trump. But the hinterland, which did not benefit from the globalization, voted him to power. and we are facing that particular problem. Brexit is another manifestation of this sharp division between London and the big cities and the rural areas of the Britain who all wanted to exit European Union. You look at Italy, where the very far nationalist parties have come to power. You look at Mr. Orban in Hungary, he is completely anti-Muslim, anti-migrant, doesn't want to have anything to do in the future of the European Union. Therefore, we have a completely different configuration, and how this is going to set, and the binary of the past, which still dominates the discourse in Pakistan, left and right, is no longer valid. My second submission is that global governance has become so complex, but the institutions which are responsible for global governance have become totally inadequate to respond and meet those challenges. The institutions like the World Bank, the IMF, who had the monopoly of power, and the United Nations, which brought everybody together, do not have as much influence today as they used to have in the past. New institutions are emerging where global hegemony is being taken to task, and very narrow parochial considerations are bringing people together. The Trans-Pacific Alliance is an example where some countries in Asia are coming together in order to perpetuate their own interest against what they consider the likely hegemony of China. And Chinese institutions are now asserting themselves. They are the largest donor of assistance to Africa, and the One Belt, One Road is going to cost trillions in 65 countries of the world. So this, I think, is something which we have to realize, that the traditional governance institutions are no longer valid. The third change which is taking place is of the technological disruption. If you look at the digital revolution, if you look at artificial intelligence, if you look at robotics, big data, data analytics, biotechnology, quantum computing, they are going to completely change the way we work, think, and operate. And if we do not try to bring ourselves up to that level of absorption and assimilation of these technologies in our society, in our educational institutions, in our day-to-day life, we will be left behind. But that requires that we emphasize new set of skills, innovation, and entrepreneurship. The parents in Pakistan should stop telling the children, go and become medical doctor, go and become an engineer, go and become a civil servant. I think you have to change your mindset. You have to send them to schools where science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are actually the staple food for further enlightenment. The fourth challenge which I foresee is that the shift of the economic balance of power between the United States, which is a decaying economy, and China and Asia is not only going to be a trade and technology war, but it's going to have political repercussions for asserting the hegemony of the winner. It is true that China has never colonized any country in the world. So this presumption that China is extending its muscle power to win over the developing countries and colonize them is a complete myth. But this is a myth which is being perpetuated by the United States in order to regain its own position. The fifth challenge is there is exponential growth in information, and we cannot keep up to sift and make sense of information. So we are now not quite sure which piece of information is fake news, which are the real facts, and which are the fabricated facts. When you completely lose that power to interpret the information, you are going to be in great difficulty. And this is what the information explosion is going to do. And the sixth or more distressful happening in the world, which we are not really realizing, is the climate change. Pakistan is one of the top 10 vulnerable countries. We get our lifeline of water, energy, and food from Indus River. And if you have glacial meltings because of the global warming, you will have floods, followed by droughts, and complete change in the way the farming is done. We are already a water-stressed economy, and if we don't really take care, both through mitigation and adaptation, we are going to be in serious difficulty. And finally, economists used to consider capital as the major determinant of economic growth. That is completely now a passé. It's the investment in human capital which is going to be responsible for distinction between the economies and the societies which are going to go ahead and those which are going to be left behind. And our record in human capital formation, unfortunately, is not that great. That even after 70 years, our adult literacy rate is below 60%, and only 25% of our females are participating in the labor force. No other country in the world will ever progress if we continue on this treadmill, which we have been doing for the past. So this is a wake-up call that you do not just consider your domestic and internal circumstances and problems, but try to contextualize this in the larger picture, because after all, Pakistan is a small dot among the 186 countries. We cannot control the world, and we will be affected by the world. Thank you very much.